All right. Well, I've been following this guy's TikTok and social media forever since we talked about his, great grandfather, Kevin Miller. Back, you all remember him from The Heart of Steel. Now he's doing so much more, and he's back on my podcast on One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. First of all, Kevin, it's been a while. How have you been?
I've been great, Alex. I've been great. I mean, I'm doing the same. I'm following you all the time on TikTok and your social media and watching all the stuff you're involved in. And you inspire me, man. I enjoy watching your videos and stuff. But I've been busy, just continuing writing books and stuff and hanging out with the family here in sunny and very warm Arizona. We're in California for a while, but now we're back in Arizona and enjoying the heat.
Well,
So
it seems like you've been diving more into the Native American, writing. So tell us what the latest is.
yeah, well, the book I'm writing right now is called Blood of Yaramaya, and it's set in the Brazilian Amazon. So it's an interesting story. I'm really having fun writing this guy. I should have it published probably in about another month. I plan on doing it about like next month. And the story is basically, a young protagonist is a 25-year-old Gen Z Stanford grad, kind of, spoiled rich kid from Malibu, and she is bored in her life. She's got a relationship that's broken up, and she takes on this. She wants to be an assistant to a doctor who's working in the Amazon to finish her thesis, and she ends up going down there to do this, and finds herself alone in the Amazon because when she gets there, the doctor's not there, and the boat leaves, and the radio doesn't work, and she has no way to get there. So as the book opens up, she's already been there a week, and she's desperate to know what to do, and basically it's the doctors down there studying an indigenous tribe that has an unusually long lifespan and trying to figure out why, but he needs a botanist, and the young lady's a botanist, and they're going to study this Yaramaya tree that has this resin that seems to be associated with their unusually long life. So anyway, that's kind of where that book is, and just having fun writing it, and it should be out in another month. You can check my website for updates on authorkevinmiller.com.
Well, and I
I
see
also
you've been doing some other events. Like I think you're going out in the community, meeting some
Yeah.
of your fans and all that, right?
Yeah. I actually have a book signing this October, October 18th in right near Scottsdale, Arizona. So I'll be out there with all my books and signing autographs, and just meeting people and talking to other authors. Those events are great because authors, you can talk to other authors and see what they're doing, and bounce ideas off each other. So yeah, that's a lot of fun to do. And I finished my time travel series. I've got a book a series of 4 books, kind of a time travel fiction, time travel historical romance type thing. So people who are into time travel romance, like the Outlander type of thing, would probably enjoy the series, the Timepiece series. So again, that's up on my website, and yeah, I was ready to, after finishing book 4. I was ready to start a different genre, different book, to just kind of step out of that world for a while. But it was a lot of fun writing the series.
Now, if you follow Kevin on TikTok and social media, and you see all the beautiful covers, I know you're a graphic designer. Did you create a lot
Yeah.
of your covers?
Yeah, no, I create them all. I do. The only two that I haven't, well, I was involved in, is the two that are traditionally published by Headline Books out there in West Virginia. Shout out to them. But yes, all the book covers are my own design. I've designed some book covers for other authors as well. It's something I like to do. I enjoy it because it's like, that's why I kind of went back to self-publishing a lot of my books, just to have that control, the control over the book cover, the control over how I market it, and I kind of enjoy it. A lot of authors are doing that these days. Some of them are more self-publishing more and more because, it's kind of
Well,
Nice
it's
way to
more of
go.
a and you own all your rights when you do that.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And the the royalties are higher too. I mean, you get most traditionally published houses will pay you 10%. They'll give you an advance, and then they'll pay you 10% royalties. Or post it on Amazon, you're getting like 70% royalty for most everything. So
all
as
right,
long as you market, you're good.
we're gonna
Hmm.
get to why you're wearing your Arizona State shirt in a minute because it does impact New
Yep.
York City and New York Giants football. Because look, I'm excited for their preseason. I know you watch it very closely, but
Oh
before we
yeah.
get to that, let's follow up on your great grandfather, Stanley
Yeah.
Kowalski. Has he come to life yet? Are you bringing him to life in movies? What's up with all the projects there with that?
We've got, yeah, that's at Hollywood. Those things take a long time. Sometime we had a TV series set up with the ID Network, and they kind of backed out on that recently. That's kind of how it goes sometimes. But so that kind of fell through the cracks. But we're still pitching it to production companies for feature film, and just actively working on it, just kind of waiting. There's a lot. We have a lot of people interested, but Hollywood has slowed down so much, from the strike and from a lot of the stuff that's gone on the last couple of years in Hollywood, and that's kind of slowed production down. It slowed green lighting projects. So just have to be patient. I'm very confident that we're going to get this thing greenlit for film and possibly for some TV, as well. So we're just, I just keep pushing away. And I have a friend of mine, Kevin Sizemore, who's an actor in Hollywood, has his own production company, who optioned the book, and he's constantly pitching it and pushing. And he's got a lot of recent projects that he's greenlit. So I know I'm in there, and I know I have a lot of confidence in him that he's going to get it done. So you will be the first to know, my friend, as soon as I have
Oh,
something.
we'll do red carpet interviews if there's ever a
Yeah,
movie in there, you know. Hey, I gotta
yeah,
ask you though,
yeah,
because Youngstown,
yeah,
Ohio, it does get in
yeah.
the news sometimes and whatnot.
Mhm,
Do you follow all the trends of Youngstown because of that?
mhm.
That's where the story started, and I'm sure
Yeah.
podcasts and radio stations there still call you up.
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, definitely. And the other thing I was going to do, the one of the things I wanted to do, Alex, is I want to go back to Ohio, and I've now that I know where the property was, it was like a 92-acre property where this where my grandfather lived and the murder took place. And I want to go walk that property with video. I want to record that, and I started to do that. And a lot of the people I was working with that wanted to buy the rights to the TV series and stuff said, no, 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 don't do that, because we want you to do that, and get your genuine reaction to it. But that might take a while. So I'm planning a trip, probably, I don't know, the next couple months, or very soon, to go back and walk that property, do a video of it, and just kind of talk about the story as I do that. And just I'd like to go walk around the area in Southington and talk to the locals, talk to the people and stuff. And just, some people, it's funny because some people say, yeah, I kind of remember something about that story. But and it's interesting because Southington, where the farm was, where my grandparents lived, and the tragedy happened, it's not changed. It's like a time capsule back there. You go back there, and it's like you could be standing in 1920 as easy as you could be standing in 2025. So it's fascinating. But yeah, I do stay in contact with a lot of people. I do get emails. People drop in on me sometimes with emails and say, I read your book, and I've got some questions for you, and would you be interested in talking to. So that does happen a lot still. So the
What
book
I
is
love about
sold.
that book, it was true crime, but also it had a lot of intrigue
Yeah.
to it too. How did you balance that out?
Yeah, when I went to go write that book, Alex, it's like it's a true crime story, but I wanted to write it in a novel format. I wanted it to be like not a documentary or a biography or anything. I wanted it to be an actual novel that people can just dive into, and visualize the story through my grandfather's eyes, kind of a cinematic version of that. So when you read the book, it's an emotional book because you're living the story, and you kind of through his eyes, and feeling it, and feeling the challenges, and the hurt, and the tragedy, and and him overcoming. I mean, his story is very inspirational. It's a 13-year-old boy, that could overcome such a tragedy and rescue his family,
He was a hero. And also then you document the love story between your grandmother and grandfather. I mean, that's part of this
yeah.
too.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a part of it. That's kind of part three of the story, because the first part of the story is, the tragedy, how it happened, the mystery, the murder mystery, everything that goes on after my grandfather wakes up and finds his father murdered in his bed, and there's his his mother is bound and gagged, and claiming that men broke in and murdered the father and stole money and stuff. So that first part's the investigation and how things fall apart and go just sideways. And then the second part is when my grandfather and his siblings is thrown into that orphanage in Warren, Ohio, that terrible place that he decides to escape from at 12 years old, to go hop a train to Chicago and make enough money to go back and bust his siblings out and take care of them. And then the third part is kind of his story, where he meets my grandmother, my Irish grandma, MMA, and
Yeah.
and that's kind of how it goes. That's his finding, coming full circle and finding that love that he needed in his life after sufferings,
Well, and he
so
began. Look, he ended up in the Prohibition era. Right, it was right there,
yeah.
and that's how he made his money for his wife. I mean, it was pretty. That's pretty
Yeah.
remarkable too.
Yeah. No, because he initially got a job in a steel mill. It wasn't really doing enough for him, but he got involved with bootlegging, because that was the time, that was the era, and he made enough money doing that, and he just kind of stayed in it for a while, and kind of did that. They in the book, my grandparents, or my grandfather owned a speakeasy, bar and stuff, and there was a story that. One time the cops showed up to his house, and he had a whole bunch of liquor in the attic, and they were pressing him, and it's you guys got any illegal liquor in here and stuff, and he goes, yeah, it's all up in the attic. He just told them that, and he jokingly, and they like, they just thought he was kidding and left. So he was an interesting character. He was an interesting guy, and I wish I'd have known more when he was alive, and I could have asked him questions, although I know he wouldn't have answered most of
Well,
them.
let me ask you this, because I feel like in your writing, there's got to be that thread which we were first pitched about many years ago.
Mhm.
Not keeping family secrets, right? You want to bring up
Right.
the secret, the family, and I feel like
Yeah.
that's reflected in all of your writing, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. Because with this story, I struggled, and I talked a lot with my dad when he was still alive, and it's like my grandfather took this story to his grave, him and his siblings, for over 100 years. He didn't want that truth revealed, but I decided I want to tell this truth just because the story was so it's inspirational. It touched my heart, and it's like, I need to tell this story because I think it's going to touch other people's hearts. And I think people are going to relate to this story, and he truly had a heart of steel, and I think people will relate to the story. And that's why I just decided to share it, because I just was in awe of his bravery and his courage at such a young age. You don't see that today. You don't see that kind of grit today. I don't think from most of our youth. It's just kind of been lost over the generations. So I thought it was a story that needed to be told. And I'm sorry, Grandpa, I love you. But I wanted to tell your story. And
What do
to
you?
honor.
Maybe he's approved it by inspiring you to write so many more books and be an award-winning author all at the same time here.
Yeah, that what, that's a nice thought. I like that thought. It really is, because the second book I wrote is inspired by my great great grandmother, who was Native American. She was Ohio Seneca, and she was married to my Irish grandfather. And that one takes place in like the Civil War, and I did a lot of research on that one as well. So yeah, I just kept going. I kept going with that, and maybe that's true. Maybe that is true, because I just found a love through his story. I found a love for writing and decided to become an author late in life. Go figure. But
All right. Well, since I've rebranded to One Leg Up Alex and one leg up with Alex Garrett and
mhm.
whatnot, I've often brought on people that are helping others have one leg up. So you mentioned the youth. When you go to these
Yeah.
conferences, are you finding that people are turning to you for that advice to have one leg up on their own writing as well?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like I said, when yeah, even as I'm sitting at the tables and talking to different people and coming up, yeah, there's a lot of youngsters and young teenagers and young adults and stuff that come up and look at my books. And I get a chance to stand there and just talk to them, and ask them questions and they'll ask questions about the book and stuff. And some of them do. They want to write, or a lot of times I'll ask them, do you ever think about writing a story as we get into a conversation? And there's so many people that want to write stories that just don't know where to start, or they just don't get around to doing it. So my advice to them is, you know what, just sit down and start writing. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't worry about, how good or bad it is. Just write the story. If because everybody has a story in them, and I think most people could write a book. Most people could find something in their family or their experiences to write. And yeah, I definitely one leg up, and find that passion, and
Kevin,
but
for
I'm
those who are sort of breaking out into this like for the first time as an author and are
yeah,
watching this right now, listening to
yeah,
us,
yep.
but they're stuck in the corporate world because if I'm not mistaken, you were in the corporate world, and of course
Hmm.
you served our military, and then once all that was completed, you dove into writing.
Yeah.
What's the message of those saying, "Hey, maybe it's too late to be right"? It's never too late.
Oh, never too late. It's never too late. I started writing in my 60s, and I mean I'd always been a professional web developer, a technical writer and stuff, but it's not the same thing. But I've always had these stories inside me. I've always had that inside. And if you're a person who has that same kind of creativity, stories, it's just stuff that just has to get out and get it on paper. It's like it is never too late to start writing. And it's never been easier to publish a book than today, because you can use Amazon, you can use, Ingram Sparks. There's so many platforms for self-published authors to publish their work and get it out there. If you go through Ingram Spark, that you can get your book in libraries. I've got a lot of my books in libraries, because they go on and they just buy them and get them out there. So
Well,
yeah.
your stories are also historical. I mean, that's the other part of this. They're
Mhm.
historical
Mhm. Mhm.
writings, and I feel like you're preserving the legacies of your
Mhm.
family. What's that mean to you
Oh,
when you hear something like that?
Oh, definitely. No, no. I mean, it's definitely preserving the legacy. And the other thing too, Alex, which is really cool. I have two younger daughters. I've got one who's 19 and one who's 23, and they feed me a lot of material because I listen to how they talk. I listen to their conversations and their experiences, with life, with their boyfriends, with their jobs, with school, and how they talk and stuff. And one of the things for me is I'm leaving in these books is when they go to read, they don't always read my books. I try, I don't push it on them and stuff because they're so busy in their lives. But I know that maybe one day when I'm not here and they sit down and they start reading all my books and going through everything, they're going to recognize conversations. They're going to recognize themselves in my writing, and that's kind of a legacy that I'm leaving for them too, because they
And
give me
it'll
so
also
much of
strike a curiosity into their own family tree now too.
yeah. Exactly, it does, and it preserves, and it gives them something that to pass down and say, yeah, this was your grandfather, this is your great great grandfather's story, and yeah, definitely, it definitely seals. I mean, that's a funny thing about books, it seals a legacy, it gives us history, it gives us an escape, and it does allow me to leave those kind of messages to my children and grandchildren. So very very cool.
Very amazing. Well, I got to ask you this then. Well,
Yeah.
we know you're a big sports guy, so we're going to get into that
Oh, yeah.
in 1 second for sure.
Yeah.
But as you're writing, what's it mean to be that expressive self? I feel like there's such a form of expression there, not just putting the words on the paper, but the way you do it.
Yeah, yeah. Every author has their writing process, and they're all different. There's no right or wrong way to write a book, And the first book when I wrote Heart of Steel, it's like I had to kind of learn how to write a book. It took me 3 years to write that book because I had to learn how to write. And go through an editor and just kind of figure it out. And then I've re-edited that book several times to make it the best it can be. But then as each as I write each book, I get better and better. And as I learn, I'm constantly learning, constantly reading other books, listening to other authors, famous authors, how they write their processes, and compare that to my own and use some of their ideas. I have my own ideas, but yeah, you kind of create your own process of writing, and it just kind of comes to you. So like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do it. Just sit down and write and be honest with the writing. Sometimes you have to be real into it. There's sections of writing that are so emotional to me that I get emotional and have to stop sometimes because and that's how I look at it, is if this is affecting me like this, I think the reader's going to feel that too. They're going to feel that through the pages. So you kind of have to get to that point to go really deep with your writing, and honest with it. That would be my advice.
And of course, I love to blog. It's a little different than writing. So do you blog as well, or is it mainly all through books?
It's mostly through books. I used to start a blog, but I just sometimes I just don't have the time to do that. I'd like to start up a blogging again, and maybe or YouTubing or something to kind of put myself out there as a resource for, young authors or other authors, to bounce ideas off or to, kind of share how my process goes and my works and different things. And I'll probably do that at some point, but.
All right, now the fun part, because you are wearing Arizona State,
Oh
and I
yeah, yeah,
have to
yeah,
talk to you before kickoff. I got to bring you on. What can
yeah.
Giant fans expect from Mr. Skattebo? I mean, I was excited when they drafted him.
Cam Skattebo. Okay, now there's a baller. There's a ball player. I think New York Giants was probably one of the best places for Cam Skattebo because this young man is just tough as nails. I mean, he just fits the New York Giants, you know, idea of what a football player should be. I've watched Skattebo for the last couple years at ASU, and what New York Giant fans should expect is a young guy that's going to come in there and just be a steamroller, man. I mean, he is what he brings to the game. Not just his physicality and his phenomenal athleticism. I mean, I've never seen anyone that can take hits and just bounce off and just keep going. But he brings a leadership. He brings a leadership to the whole team. It's like contagious. His attitude, his leadership is contagious, and that's kind of what helped ASU. I mean, ASU's got a lot of talent besides Cam Skattebo, but he was the heart and soul of that team last year, and just fires everybody up. And
he was targeted a lot in that championship game, if I'm not mistaken, too.
Oh yeah. I mean, think about the championship game. The championship game, yeah, he just right off the bat, I mean, he just comes out busting loose. He's hard to stay. You're not going to stop Cam Skattebo. You can try to contain him, but you're not going to stop him. And the game, the playoff game against Texas, which
yeah, yep.
heartbreaking, but the young man was the MVP, in a loss. Because he rushed for like 143 yards. I think he had 99 yards receiving, 42 yards passing. He had a 2-point conversion to,
Honestly, he kept them in the game, if I'm not mistaken. He kept them in the game that day.
He did, man. He was sick earlier. He had like a stomach bug or something, and then he just hurled it and then got back out there and got to work, and ASU had to catch up because they gave up a cheap punt return and one big play. And then ASU turned it around. ASU put 510 yards of offense on that NFL type Texas defense. So they really came to play. They really, punched Texas in the mouth there and took them right to the wire. A couple questionable calls could have definitely changed that game, but just the performance of Cam Skattebo, that when you look at that game and watch that game, that's what you're going to get in New York. When he's out, I know he's got a little bit of a hamstring injury here, probably slowed him down.
The injuries are a little weird right now with the Giants. Malik's a little hurt.
Yeah.
He's a little, but you know what? It's still enough time to recover. But I have to say this. I'm gonna tag you on this because people who are Giant fans have to take this guy's perspective, Kevin's perspective. He's right there on the ground in Arizona reporting on camp for us. And I'm very appreciative about that.
Yeah.
But I want to turn to the other sideline because you've also watched Texas, right? And we all wondered why Archie Manning didn't really get a snap. I'm very not Archie. Hold
Young
on,
Manning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Isn't it Archie?
I think it is Arch Manning. Yeah, I think he's got his grandpa's
Yeah, I
name.
think you're right. So does Arch Manning.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
on the other sideline, we're all wondering where that Manning is, right? And wondering when he's going to get in the game. Look, I loved what Quinn Ewers did for Texas. I thought he was very good for them, but they could have
Yeah.
gone to Manning a little more down the
Yeah.
stretch, and they just did not. And it was kind of frustrating because, hey, we're all
Mhm.
Manningites up here, right? But also,
Yeah.
we want to see if this kid is worth drafting. I mean, I think the
Yeah.
Giants have their eyes on him.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And you got a good one with Jackson Dart. I mean, you got a good young quarterback who's got a lot of fire and spark there. So I think the Giants' quarterback room is in pretty good shape as well as their running back room. But yeah, it makes you wonder. I wondered that too because it's like you got young Manning there. Why aren't you giving him more playing time?
Especially on the
Obvi-
goal line. I mean, they kept
yeah,
going to Quinn, and it's like, but Arch could run it right in for you, you know?
yeah, right, right.
Well,
So we're going to get to see. I mean, there's going to be a lot of pressure on this young man because there's a lot of hype, and that's a lot to live up to. Hopefully, his coaches, will have him, not distracted from all that talk and chatter, so he can just focus on the game, and play the game. Just ignore all the talk and all the Heisman and all the
now
hype
it's
and
funny because
play
he
the
was, I
game.
believe, either Friday or Saturday. He was not on the first day, but
Yeah,
when you got drafted on that Saturday, he texted me, "You're going to want to watch this team. I am now a Giant fan." I'm like, "Oh, we
yeah.
converted someone. Look at that."
Oh yeah, no, I'm on board. New York Giants, I'm on board. I am on board. I'm gonna be watching every Giant game that I can watch because I love this kid, Cam Skattebo. You guys are gonna fall in love with this kid, man, because he just doesn't quit. He's just a beast, and he's got that X factor, Alex. Like some players are good, but they don't have the X factor. Cam Skattebo has that X factor, and I know that Kenny Dillingham, he it's been, he called the coach, he called the coach of the Giants up and he said, you know what, just let Cam Skattebo do what he does because he's going to influence that team. He's going to fire everybody up. Everyone that's around him just gets fired up. He just has that effect on the team. And once he's in there, once he gets his time in there and he's healthy and feeling good and stuff, you guys are in for a treat. Because this kid, he's not the fastest. I mean, he's got like a 4.65 40, but I have never seen a running back, and I've seen a lot of running backs over the years, and especially at ASU and stuff. I've never seen a running back that has the kind of balance that he has, that he can take these hits and just keep pushing forward, and you can't tackle him. He just keeps pushing forward. He'll find a way. I mean, he's going to be great for the Giants. The Giants' running game is going to be great, and I really see good things happening for New
Oh,
York
him and Tyrone
next
in the
couple of
backfield is going
years.
to be electric. All right, I got to
Yeah.
give a shout out to your head coach because many who
Mhm.
probably know this, he gave a bonus to everybody on his staff after
Yeah.
they advanced. How cool is that?
Kenny Dillingham is the coolest guy, Alex. He's a young coach. They're probably one of the youngest coaches in college football right now. These kids love him, at ASU, and none of them wanted to leave. With the NIL and the portal and stuff, they all wanted to stay. Even the backup Sims, the quarterback Sims, could start anywhere he wants. He started at Nebraska. He wanted to stay and back up Sam Levitt. Sam Levitt's going to be his name's going to be thrown out there for Heisman as well. They're load. HU's loaded at talent. That's one of the things people don't understand is they're like, well, Cam Skattebo's gone now. No, you guys have no idea. This ASU team is going to be even better than last year's ASU team. They are three deep everywhere. They're just loaded. Their defense is going to be one of the best in the country. They've pulled in some wide receivers from Alabama and other places that they've upgraded. That Sam Levitt's going to have more targets to throw to other than Jordan Tyson, who's a first team All American. They're going to make noise, and people are kind of downplaying and not still sure about ASU, but I promise you ASU is going to be right there, and I really expect to see them back in the Big 12 championship this year. Who they're going to play, hard to say. There's so many good teams in the Big 12, and it's crazy. There's probably 7, 8, 9 teams that could probably get there. But
What?
yeah, no, Dillingham has just done an amazing job, at ASU in such a short period of time.
What's on with Kevin Miller now? With all this sports knowledge, I got to say, you got to write a sports book now. That's got to be in your repertoire, I
Oh,
think.
Yeah, no, you know what? Exactly. I'd love to do that. Absolutely love to do that. I'd love to write Kenny Dillingham's story. He's a guy that like me. I mean, it's like, and I used to coach. My brothers and I used to coach. We played football and we coached Pop Warner football together and won a lot. And we're all crazed Arizona State Sun Devil fans. And that's who Kenny Dillingham is. He's an alumni. He grew up, in the Valley. So him getting that job is like me getting that job. That's how passionate he is. And he's getting all kinds of offers and he just turns them down. He's like, this is the job I want. This is my dream job for real. This is where I want to be. And he's so passionate about it. And that's contagious to the players. All the players want to be there. They love playing for him. These players love each other and playing for each other. And that's what makes championships. When a team can play that, you can have all the all stars and stuff you want. I mean, you got teams that have all these great players they pulled in, but can they play together? Are they there for the money or are they there for the love of the game and the love of each other? And ASU has that right now. They have that chemistry, and that's why they're a dangerous team, to play. So I'm excited. Very excited for the season, and we'll see where she goes and what they can accomplish this year. But I'm a big fan of Dillingham.
All right. Well, as you know, we have a Hurley up here in Yukon who's won a few rings already. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
but the Hurley down in ASU is like equal. I mean, they're brothers. They're equally passionate about the game, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt, definitely. Yeah, that attitude just kind of goes through all the coaches and stuff. And I'm a fan of Hurley's too, and I think ASU would do well to keep him on, and because he's done some good stuff. ASU's not a huge basketball school; they never were. That school down south in Tucson that we remains unmentioned. That U of A, they're usually the basketball school, but ASU's had some great seasons, and I think Hurley needs to stick around and they need to pay him and keep him going because I think he's going to do good things, and he's already doing some good work in recruiting.
Well, I'll never
Some
forget when you
players.
guys beat us at St. John, and I didn't go to St. John's, but I'll
Yeah,
just say us because I love St. John's. I grew up
yeah,
half
yeah,
a
yeah,
mile from them. You guys beat us in the first four when Mullen
yeah.
was coach, and of course Mullen retired. Left after
Hmm.
that, but that was an impressive showing for ASU, and I think that was their real on the map moment.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, without a doubt. Hurley's had some good years. He's had a couple down years and stuff, but that comes with coaching. That comes with you got to reload, and we all know that. And everyone's got to reload. But yeah, they've had some good years, and they just need to stick with the guy. The guy's a great coach. He knows basketball, and he motivates his players. And I know that he shows up to the football games too, and Dillingham shows up to the basketball games, and they just all support each other so well. So exciting things happening.
Well, on the
Mhm.
field, off the field, and in the books, it sounds like. So very
Yeah.
exciting stuff. And remind our listeners one more time where you're going to be doing the signing.
Oh yeah. Let me pull that up real quick. It's let me just pull this up real quick and I'll give you the exact address right off my website. And the information is on my website, authorkevinmiller.com. But it's the Desert Foothills Book Fest book signing. It's Saturday, October 18th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's at the Hollins Center in Scottsdale, Arizona. So I'll be out there with all the other authors, and there's lots of books, and it's the perfect time of year to get out there and get some books for the holidays. They make great gifts.
Yeah.
So
And
lots of
fall in
gifts.
Arizona's got to be feel really nice. Not as hot, right? Or
Oh yeah, no, it stays hot out. It stays hot until about Halloween, and even growing up here, man, it's warm even through September and October. But right around Halloween is when it's kind of the switch flips and it gets a little cooler at night. And then from that point on, it's cold. It gets real cold here, but it's a
well,
beautiful time of year. Hmm.
while we're on football, is this Kyler's make or break year? I mean, do you follow Cardinals football as much or not
Yeah,
really?
no, I do. And I don't know, it just, there's a young man, another Heisman winner from Oklahoma, that was so full of promise coming to the Cardinals. And, they've had a lot of struggles, and his struggles aren't all his fault, but it's hard to say. I really am just kind of confounded on what he's going to do. We're just kind of got to wait and see. And I'm waiting for Marvin Harrison to break out. I mean,
Right.
the young man is as talented as his father was, but it's like, okay, man, but at what point
Well, and I
does that?
think this generation of NIL kids is a little different because
Uh,
now they're expecting the big payday. And
right.
that just means we have more expectation as the fans for them to perform. I mean, there's no doubt
Yeah.
about it.
Right, right, exactly. So a lot of pressure there. So I hope so. I mean, I like the Cardinals, I've liked them since they've been here and stuff, and I've tried hard to be a fan, and I am a fan, but they've kind of, they kind of break our hearts sometimes, but I'm definitely a Giants fan this year, man. I'm watching Cam Skattebo, and we'll see where that goes and stuff. But yeah, I wish the Cardinals the best. I hope they have a good season. I hope Kyler can turn it around and be the quarterback that he has the potential to be. He's a talented young man. It's like,
Well, they
he just
looked
got
strong in preseason, so we'll have to see.
to
Both
do.
teams did, so we'll
Yeah,
have to see.
they really do. They really do. So I think it's going to be a good year for football all around, and I am just chomping at the bit. Saturday's the kickoff for ASU's first game against Northern Arizona University, which is not a bad team. They're D2, but they're ranked at D2, and they won 9 games last year. So it won't be a cakewalk, but ASU should handle them pretty well. And then they'll be off to Mississippi State, which they should take that game too. But I imagine after this week, I think Miami's going to lose, and I think ASU will move up from 11th and 10th and break the top 10. It's just they just gotta.
Well, right, especially because of their big year last year, so it can
Yeah,
happen
yeah,
again.
for
Hey,
sure, for
Kevin, I
sure.
really appreciate this. And next episode we have you. Maybe we'll
Yeah.
do one more promo about what's going on in October for people to freshen their
Oh yeah,
minds about. And
absolutely.
I want to get into your coaching style and how maybe you brought that
Mhm.
coaching into your writing as well. Is there a correlation?
Yeah, well, probably so. I mean, when I think about it, because just our mindset, my brothers and I, we kind of. That's why I kind of like Kenny Dillingham, because we kind of had that same mindset. We got the kids just so excited to play that we would have young men play above their talent, just having fun with them. And we would teach them things sometimes by just like having fumble drills. We throw the ball in the mud and let them. The mothers hated it, but the kids loved it, and we never lost a fumble. And we would onside kick a lot at that level, and we recover it quite a bit because they knew how to recover a fumble, and they were having fun, so much fun they didn't realize they were learning something, because we had fun just kind of playing through
Oh,
them,
I'm sure
living
that.
through
I
them.
mean, my favorite
Oh
time
yeah.
for my favorite thing in football is not so much the mud, but in the snow. That's when I love to play the
Oh, the
game.
snow. Yeah, 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 yeah. You guys got the snow back there.
We,
So,
my dad and I used to play in the courtyard of NYU where I went to
yeah,
pre-K, all the way when I
yeah,
was, in my teens, and we'd
yeah.
play when there was snow, and it was one of my favorite things. So I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
imagine how excited the kids get rolling around trying to get that ball. It's got to be
Oh,
fun to
yeah.
watch. So
Oh, no, it's so much fun. And what's really rewarding, I know our years of Pop Warner coaching was when we have that kid, that shy kid that kind of, is kind of a little afraid of contact and stuff, and you just work with them and and you see him progress and I had one kid, his name was Matt Galbert, man, and I worked at because I played wide receiver and defensive back, so I was working with him a defensive back, and by the end of the year he had like 6 interceptions, and the kid went on to play high school football, which he probably wouldn't have, and he was good, and one father came up with his little boy who was struggling in school, and he goes, you know what? I got to give you guys credit because his confidence is so high right now that he's pulled all his grades up. They were going to put him in special classes, and now he's got good grades, and that just touches my heart. That's what coaching's all about, is just seeing young men or young women, just rise above themselves and be successful and find that confidence in themselves. That's what we try to instill. And when you
well,
do that,
in your
they win.
conference, Oklahoma softball is really amazing, by the way. And Oklahoma softball is fun to watch. So I'm glad
Oh
you
yeah,
shout out the
yeah,
women too. Hey,
yeah. No, gotta
Kevin,
shout out the women.
let's have a bigger conversation on this because we can.
Yep.
I always think of fall, and I always listen to Bob Wolf's son, Rick Wolf, who used to
Hmm.
do a show on WFAN
Yeah.
about youth sports, and we don't have that
Mhm.
conversation anymore. A, because unfortunately, Rick Wolf passed, but B, no one
Yeah.
wants to talk about how we can invigorate the youth sports. Instead, it's about
Yeah.
how bad it is, how the coaches are, or how the
Right.
umpires and refs don't want to do it
Right.
anymore. We can
Yeah.
revitalize it just through these conversations of yes, sports is
Sure.
healthy for the kid, and they have to be allowed to play it.
Yeah, it's such a vital. It's such a to me it's such a vital the aspect to development young to developing our young people. The sports, sports is just a metaphor for life, and they learn so much, being part of a team, and how to interact, and have each other's back, how to overcome adversity. There's every lesson in life can be learned through sports.
Yeah,
So I
and
think it's
you
important.
know how much, and life is so much bigger than baseball. When Jazz Chisholm in his 100th career homer, what did he do on the bench? He hugged all of his very emotional
Yeah.
moment because here's a
Right.
guy like many others whose life is bigger than baseball, and yet here he is thriving at the game he loves. It's so
Right.
cool to see these stories unfolding right here in New York,
Yeah.
and now with Skattebo, we're going to see how it correlates. And you know
Yeah.
this, NFL's not an easy transition. Neither is
Nope.
NBA.
Nope.
I remember
Yeah.
Tyler. I'll tell the story till the day I can't. Tyler Hansborough, standout at
Hmm.
UNC, ends up packing groceries.
Yep.
Uh, ends up packing groceries because he couldn't make it in the NBA. It's just funny how these things end up.
Yeah, it is. Cam Skattebo was a zero-star recruit out of high school. Nobody recruited him. Sacramento State finally gave him an offer, and he played there for a year before he transferred to ASU, before Kenny Dillingham discovered him and convinced him to come to ASU. He's been disrespected his whole life. That's part of what motivates that young man, is he's constantly proving that's why he made the statement before Texas saying, I'm the best running back in the country. And it's like, wow, man, you're really throwing the gauntlet down to Texas's defense. But he went out there and proved it. He went out there and proved it on the field. But yeah, I mean, it's and that there's a guy who you would think wouldn't make it, but there he is. He's a New York Giant. So
Pretty
it's, you gotta
awesome, and
love it.
we're excited to
Gotta
have him.
love it.
I love the first impression he made, that kind of hype video and whatnot of him coming to New
Hmm.
York. So gotta love his energy already. All right, Kevin, we're gonna
Yeah.
follow you back. We're gonna promote your Instagram, your X account, your
Oh,
everything,
great.
because you deserve to be shouted out. So we're gonna do that.
I
And
appreciate it.
also, thanks for having writers have one leg up on life for sure.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it, Alex. I really do, man. It's good, great talking to you again. It's been too long. We need to do this a little more often.
Well, now that I know that you were a coach, we got to do some breakdowns and stuff as the
Yeah,
weeks go on. I'd love to do that.
absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Would
Right.
love it.
That's
Love to
Kevin
do it.
Miller on the One Leg Up Network. I'm Alex Garrett.
Great.